Hi everyone, this is Samantha from the Dancing Soap Dish. I hope you're well. Take a look at these gorgeous soap bars that I've made. I call these my Flower Power Melt and Pour soap bars because they have these beautiful floral designs on them. There's a range of different types of flowers, which I have done in all different colors. And how I managed to get this effect was to actually paint the floral designs in the middle of two layers of melt and pour soap. So if I look at this at the side here, I've got the purple layer on the back and the clear layer on the front and the flowers in the middle, but they're not embeds. They've actually been painted on. And I think the effect is just gorgeous, especially when the light catches the mica that I used to paint the flowers. There's some really pretty designs. Here you see how from the side you can see that flower there is flat. And all the way around you can see the two layers in the bar here are daisies. I think the daisies are my favorite. They're just so pretty. And I've done them on sort of like a dark bluey purpley background. This tutorial is the July project for the 2024 Stamped Soap Challenge. If you want to view tutorials for the other stamped soap projects I've done, you can find them in a special playlist on this YouTube channel. Okay, so here are the stamps that I've used to create these soap bars, and I know what you're going to say, these are not stamps, and that's true, they're not. They're actually cookie cutters. They are similar to some of the other stamps I've used in my other projects. They came with a cookie stamp and a mold. They were plastic, just like this. These ones don't have a stamp. They're just the cookie cutter. But they're really, really cute designs. They're a little bit smaller as well than the usual size stamps. And they're flat on one side, but the other side actually has the outer stamp is longer than the inside stamp. So if you were making a cookie or something, it would emboss, the petals on while cutting out the outside of the flower. So they're a little bit different, but I thought I could make them work. Some of them also have a bar across them because they have an interior design that's not attached to anything. So here with the cherry blossom as well. So it's got those little bars on the top side just to hold that interior design in place. I only have a 6 cavity mold that I'm going to use today, but I have 8 stamps. So I'm going to actually discard 2 of these. I'll probably just keep all the round ones, and this lotus and this tulip I'll just put to the side, because that way the bars, from whichever direction you look at them, they'll look the right side up. So the technique that I'm using today is similar to one I used back around Valentine's Day. I took these nested heart cookie cutters and I pushed them into the soap like a stamp and then painted the areas with mica. And that's what I'm going to do today. So the first step is to pour half of my soap bars, so the clear half. So I'm weighing out some ultra clear melt and pour soap base. I want to make 90 gram soaps, so I need to put 45 grams into each of these 6 cavities. All up, that will require 270 grams of melt and pour soap. So I've measured that out, plus a little bit extra for wastage. I always put a couple of extra cubes in there. Especially when you're weighing out, because you'll find that some sticks to the jug you're using, or you might, go over a little bit, and so you really do need that extra. What I've also done is I noticed my soap was a little bit on the yellow side, so I've just added not even a drop, just sort of like a little bit of blue soap coloring on the end of my spoon, and I've stirred that through just to make my clear base add to the clarity, and it was looking a little bit yellow, which is perfectly within spec for the soap that I'm using, but I just find it's a bit nicer if it's got a blue tinge rather than a yellow tinge. So now I am weighing out 45 grams of soap base into each of these cavities. I'm spraying the surface with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of any bubbles after I've done that. I have run a little bit short because I did put a little bit too much in some of the earlier cavities, so I'm just spooning some extra into this last one here. I have got some bubbles sitting on the surface, some soap that was a little bit overcooked, so I'm just scraping off when the skin that's forming on the top there, and if you scrape off the skin, then you'll find that it also takes any of those impurities or bubbles sitting on the surface with it, and you get a beautiful, nice, clean, flat surface, which is ideal for the stamping. So I've left those for about half an hour and they have set. I'm just getting rid of all this excess soap I had when I pulled off all the skins. There we go. And I'm going to just set up my first bar to be stamped, just getting rid of all that excess soap that I had around here. I don't need any of that. Just making sure the edges of my bar are nice and clean by just giving them a trim. And there we go. I've popped that down on a sheet of baking paper, and this is the first little daisy stamp here that I'm going to use. I have a soft bristled brush and some beautiful soap making micas. I've got white pearlescent and a yellow one. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing my flower cutter into the surface of the soap. I've just sort of done an off-center design. I've had to use a little hammer there just to make sure it's pushed all the way in. One thing that you need to make sure you do, because the outside of the cutter is longer than the details on the inside, you have to make sure that it's pushed in far enough that those inside walls of the cutter are actually sitting firm against the soap. Otherwise, when you go to do a section, for example, the yellow center, the mica can spill out into the other sections if it's not pushed down against the soap. Once you've finished painting a flower, just give it a tap onto a paper towel to get all the excess mica off the top. And you'll see there I've got a beautiful little daisy design. Now I'm just going to do a second flower. So again, giving it a hammer in. And I'm using my yellow again. You probably need a variety of brushes. All of them need to be soft bristled, but some of them can be a little bit fatter. Some of them you might need a little bit finer depending on the size of the area that you're filling in with the mica. I am dry brushing the mica at this point. I don't feel it's necessary to add any alcohol or any other liquid to it to make up a paint. Dry brushing it will suffice. And I'm also just pushing some of the edges of the rectangular bar of soap back into place at the end there, because sometimes stamping it can push some of the sides a little bit askew, but you can just push those back in with your fingers. And I've popped that daisy soap actually back into the mold cavity. I make sure that it goes in the same way that it comes out, in the sort of the same orientation. And I'm on to my next soap. So this one I've just got sort of like a classic flower shape. I'm going to use my raspberry pink and my orange micas. I have had to go and get a finer brush just to fit into that area there where the bar crosses the center circle there. There's not a lot of room either side. So with a fine brush, I am able to make sure that I get good coverage with the orange mica that I was using there. And now I'm doing the same with the pink. And I'm going to have a pink flower with an orange center. Once I've done that first flower, again, I'm going to tap any excess onto this paper towel. While you do that, also sort of hold it up to the light or sort of hold it away from the surface that you're working on, and just check that you're happy with the coverage of the mica. Sometimes you can see that the mica is on a little bit thinner in some areas, and you might want to just give that area another going over to make sure that you've got good coverage. I'm now going to start my second flower on this bar of soap. I think I might speed it up a bit. I mean, it was already on fast forward, but now I'm ramping it up to 10 times speed. I don't like to edit too much out of my videos. Like I want you guys to see sort of the whole process, and see also that I haven't, hidden anything. I haven't said, oh, this is how you do it, but then secretly off to the side I've done something else that you've missed out on. But then also at times like this, I worry that the video drags on a bit and gets a bit boring. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I am going to take a little break from the painting right here just to show you this collection of micas that I have that I mixed myself. So I've actually mixed up all these different colors from some very basic colors that I had just to get a whole bunch of different options when coloring my soap. So I've made a video on that. It's my mica mixing video. I'll put a link in the description of this video. Check it out when you have a second, because it's a really great way of expanding your collection of colors for your soap making. All right, I'm going to zoom this in a bit now as well, get a little bit of a closer look. I'm on to my next flower, and I've picked out some sort of sunflower colors for this one. Now I know it's not technically a sunflower shape, but it did have sort of the largest center of all the flower cutters that I was using. So I thought, hey, why not make it a beautiful brown center with some lovely orangey yellow around the side. And I think it's a very pretty flower. I really like these colors that I've chosen here. If you haven't noticed, I'm also altering the position of my flower stamps with every bar that I do. This is the first bar I've done where I've actually put a flower in the center of the bar. And then I'm also just filling in a couple of the edges with some partial flowers around the side. And I'm just thinking this up randomly as I go along. I just sort of like the random look. I'm giving the mold a little bit of a clean because it had some soap around the edges, just making sure that that's all gone before I pop this soap back in its cavity. I don't want those bits of excess soap around the edge when I go to fill my second layer. So this stamp here is a cherry blossom. I really love, who doesn't love a cherry blossom? They're so pretty. I ummed and ahed about the colors for this one, and I mean obviously it was going to be pink. But I wasn't sure about what to do the center. Just those little, the stamen and the little pistils sort of thing that they've got in the center there. I was thinking of doing it a dark color, but then I Googled, pictures of cherry blossoms and found out that they're actually yellow. So that's why I picked a really pale yellow, which I am going to use in the center. I'm also trying two different pinks. But I fear that the pinks were actually too close in color to each other, to the point that at the end you can't even really tell that I've used two different pinks. But, whatever, it's all an experimentation. For this bar of soap, I've also put my cherry blossom in the center, and then I've done some partial petals on all four corners as well, which I think is... it looks really good for the cherry blossom. I like that. So here I am here filling in the center with the yellow. Like I said, that's sort of the color that I saw when I Googled pictures of what real life cherry blossoms look like. So there we go. Pop that back in. Okay. Now I've got these beautiful sort of heart-shaped petaled flowers. I just decided to go with a beautiful blue and a beautiful purple. These are my pastel mica colors that I mixed myself. I've chosen to do one flower with blue petals, and the second flower I'm going to do purple petals. I think these colors complement each other nicely, and I'll also do some partial blue and purple flowers sort of off to the edges of the soap as well, just to fill out the design. I think this is my second last soap now, so I've pretty much got this process down pat. It was a lot of fun. The painting was a lot of fun. If you are having trouble picking colors, just do some Googling of some flowers or go to Pinterest or whatnot. For this last flower here, I decided to do a dark center and maybe try for a two-colored petal. I was getting, really into the experimentation at this point. So I did some pink around the center and then some white around the edge, which I think came out very nicely. This is sort of the effect that I actually wanted for the cherry blossom. Maybe if I did them again next time, I'd do them like this. But I think that's a very pretty sort of pink and white flower there. I'll just do a second one here. If you're going to try and blend colors, you just need to take note of how the color goes down first, because I'm actually looking at the back of the soap. So that's not what it's going to look like. It's actually the color that you put down first. That color needs to be in the exact right spot. So just make sure you take that into account. Okay, I finally finished painting my flowers. Don't they look fabulous? I love it. I'm just going to give them a bit of a clean up with some isopropyl alcohol and a lip gloss brush. Because I used the mica dry, you know, sometimes because it's such a fine powder, bits of it do sort of go flying off and end up on clear parts of soap where you don't want mica. If you happen to have that anywhere, which I do in a couple of little parts, just use your lip gloss brush dipped in alcohol just to clean up those areas and make sure that everything looks just as it should. All right, now it's time for the second layer. I've weighed out my essential oil that I'm going to be using to fragrance the soap. I've used a variety of floral essential oils and sort of blended them up. And I am adding to that my micas. So I've opted for a combination of dark blue and dark purple to give me a sort of a beautiful indigo color for my background. I've mixed that into the essential oils just because it's easier to mix mica into soap base when it's mixed with liquid rather than trying to mix it in as a powder, because it tends to just sit on the top and it's really hard to mix in. You have to do a lot of stirring, and then sometimes by the time you've done all that stirring, your soap base is too cold. So this is a way to work extra quickly and just make sure you get that fragrance and that color added all in one go, and give it a really, really good stir, but a quick stir so that soap is good and hot. It needs to be good and hot for the second layer, because I'm not going to spray any alcohol because that will smudge the mica and run the risk of the hot soap sort of smudging it and pushing it out of where it should be. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a spoon to direct the second layer to an area of the soap that doesn't have any mica on it, so that the mica doesn't get smudged. So I'm pouring the soap onto the spoon and then using the spoon to direct the soap to an area of the mold that doesn't have any mica. That way I can avoid smudges. I'm also spraying with isopropyl alcohol as I go. I held my hand over a couple of the cavities there when I was spraying, just to make sure I didn't get any overspray on the mica too. Okay, now these are all set and ready for the reveal. Let's just give this mold a little bit of a stretch here. This is the first one I did, the daisies, and don't they look fabulous? I really like that. I'm happy with the background color I chose. I think the indigo was a really good choice. Some of the surfaces of these soap bars are looking a little bit cloudy, but that's just because I took them out and I handled them, and I also had them sitting, on the baking paper while I painted them. That one there has got a little bit of mica powder on the outside, I saw, but I'll be able to give these a buff and clean them up, and they'll be looking bright and shiny and as good as new. So here are my 6 soap bars, looking pretty amazing if I do say so myself. Let's just take a look at them here. Sometimes at the side there might be a little bit of overlap, especially because we removed that first layer from the mold and popped it back in, which can separate the mold from it and allow the second layer to sort of sneak back in. That's okay, we can fix that. Just giving these a spray with isopropyl alcohol to show you what they look like wet. So when you're using them in the bath or the shower, they'll be wet, and when they're wet they get this amazing clarity to them and this beautiful shininess from the mica. Look at that, that is fantastic. This is what they're going to look like when you're using them in the shower, which is just fantastic. The scent is beautiful, a beautiful floral scent. It's amazing. Love those pink flowers there, these gorgeous colors here, and of course the beautiful cherry blossoms. Just fantastic. I really, really love them. Okay, so now I'll just give you a quick demo of just cleaning them up to present them nicely. I'm just going to use this acrylic bevel that I have here. I'll put a link in the description of where you can get one. And I'm using the acrylic bevel just to clean up the back of the soap. I'm just beveling the back. I'm not going to touch the front. And once I've beveled that, I'm also just using a dry, clean cloth just to buff the surface of the soap. And this is removing sort of any fingerprints, any sort of mica powder that made it on to the surface. I'm also buffing the sides of the soap. So if you do have you know, where the two layers of soap meet, if there is a little bit of overlap, you can actually buff that off or just buff it to a smoother finish. And that can all be done with a dry, clean cloth. So here I am just beveling the second bar of soap here. That's beautiful. Going to give that a really good buff because this one had some dry mica on the surface, so I'm just going to make sure I buff that off. Buff the edges as well. I do find sometimes you do get streak marks on the soap when you buff it, so what I like to do is turn the soap, buff it in a circular motion, and then the streak marks won't be straight and going in any particular direction. If they're straight and the light catches them, you can really see those lines, buff lines on the surface of the soap. But if you turn your soap as you buff it, you actually get rounded lines which aren't picked up by the light in the same sort of way, and just give you a really great finish to your soap. So here I am here, buffing all the edges, especially that front surface, and then buffing in a circular motion to give me a really great finish on that soap. Okay, so here they are, all buffed and ready to go. These aren't wrapped. This is how they look. They haven't been sprayed with alcohol or anything. This is how they look naturally. I think they are fantastic. I really love these. They're a great idea. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial for my Flower Power Melt and Pour soap bars. Please like and subscribe if you love what I do, and give this video a thumbs up also. And until next time, thanks guys. Enjoy.